I've already been introduced by the academy, so I'm not going to do it. This is me. I welcome everyone in today's program. So first of all, we'll just briefly go to the few slides. So I'll be covering the slides on wildlife crimes. And please bear with me, I cannot speak sitting on a chair or a sofa or anything like that. So I have to keep on moving so that I can concentrate and relate to all these slides. So let us first see what is wildlife crimes. So this is what I consider are wildlife crimes in a broader way. Maybe there are others also. So it is an illegal activity which involves exploitation of the wild animals and plants. It's not only the wild animals, but it also includes the plants. For example, poaching, illegal logging, illegal fishing, trafficking, endangered species. So mostly we hear about smuggling of ivory, rhino horn, because I still remember there was one case reported in Sikkim also regarding the rhino horn. And that case was, it originated from Sikkim, and I don't know what happened thereafter. Few of the, the perpetrators were arrested that time also. Even the flower, exotic plants. So wildlife crime, why we are so much concerned about the protection of wildlife, why we are so much concerned about the biodiversity, the surroundings around us, why there is so much of concern. This is only because of the fact that wildlife crime is a serious threat to the biodiversity and the environment around us. So it is a chain. Although I am not a expert in all these things, and I don't have a science background also, but whatever I have studied and whatever research I have done, so these are few things. It's a threat to the biodiversity as well as the environment around us, and if our environment itself is destroyed or damaged, then it will have a cascading effects on other things also, like climate. That is what we are seeing right now. Yesterday my daughters were in Canggu, and yesterday they were telling me that there is no snow in Canggu, in and around Canggu Lake. Because this is the time when I was a student, I used to visit Canggu during April, even during the month of May we used to get snow in Canggu, but nowadays we won't. So this is how the environment is changing, the climate is changing, and these are all related to each other. Animal, plants, human beings, environment, biodiversity, everything is related. That's why it is important that we should take appropriate steps, because it is already too late. We should have taken these steps, we should have taken appropriate steps to protect the environment long time back, maybe 50 years back. But even, nothing is late. So it endangers wild and exotic species of plant and animals, disrupt ecological balance, and encourages organized crimes. So wildlife offences can be categorized as offences with illegal activities against plant and animal. This is one. And another, illegal trafficking in wild animals, plant and its products. So this is, first thing is something like we have, that game hunting kind of thing. We just kill an animal just for fun. That is also there. These kind of offences are also reported, not in Sikkim, but in other states. Like you must have, that thing is still fresh in your mind. The case of Salman Khan. It was just a game hunting. Another is illegal trafficking in animals and its products. And why wildlife offences are being committed? Why it is so? Because high demand for wildlife products like meat. Wild animals' meat is considered as the most, pure form of protein. That's why these animals are being hunted. And it fetches a very, very high price in the international market. Even wildlife products, ivory, rhino horn, that blue sheep horn, so many things, even plants, exotic plants, and it is very, very lucrative. Even cultural and traditional play. We still see in our villages that lot of all those chakris, and even the faith healers, chakris, faith healers, even all those baitangis and all, they use all these products, wildlife products as medicine. So for that purpose also we tend to, poach animals and use the product as a medicine. Poverty and lack of employment. All those people who are residing in, the areas where they share boundary with the like the reserve forest or the Kasmaru cultures and all, in those places people are basically they are poor. I am not talking about the Sikkim only. This is I am talking about talking in the context of the India, the entire country. So if you see in Jharkhand and other places, all these tribal peoples, they live in harmony with they used to live in harmony with the nature, and they share boundary with the forest areas and all. And most of them are very, very poor. So what is the means of living? What they are doing, they are poaching animal and selling its meat, its byproducts and all, so that they can earn their livelihood. That is also one of the reasons why these permits have been coming. And weak law enforcement, as we all know, this is one of the major causes of commission of wildlife offences. Technology facilitates illegal trade. Now what is happening? Earlier you used to have technology, but it was not that advanced where you have all those facilities to do illegal trade without human intervention or without human physical contact. Nowadays you can use all this dark net, deep net and all. So they use all these technologies to do all this kind of illegal trade. Now, what is deep net and what is dark net? Let us just go by it also. So the net which we are using today, like I am also using the net, this is surface net. This is the simplest form of net which we are using today. And there is one more form of net, intranet, which is a little bit complex than this net, the surface net, that is called deep net. Now there is one more form of net which is called dark net. Now what is the difference? If you are using the surface net, then any person who has the knowledge and insight of the computer technology, a software engineer can easily track you. Which machine has been used, which net has been used, where was the location, from where this particular mail or particular information was generated and where it was sent. You can easily track it. In deep net, maybe a simple computer graduate may not be able to trace that, because it is something deeper than the surface net. If you are using the dark net, then nobody can trace it. Not even the hackers. Nobody can trace it. So nowadays what they are doing, they are using the dark net for illegal trade. sitting at, USA or UK or in South Africa, you can just book leopard, 10 numbers of leopard skin, please send it to this location. My men will receive it and your payment will be done in cryptocurrencies. That is how it is being done. So, technology is facilitating the commission of offense. It makes easier for the people to transact. So that is why the number of offenses is also increasing day by day. Now, effects of wildlife crime. Biodiversity loss. Species face extinction due to poaching and habitat destruction. So you must have seen, we have also seen. I will just give you a small example. When I basically belong from South Sikkim, a place called Lingmo, and I studied there in Lingmo for almost 4 or 5 years. Till my elementary schooling, I did it from Lingmo only. So there used to be one plant. I don't know the name of the plant also. It used to give some red color of flowers, and it used to be in abundance everywhere in my place. Just beside my house also, lot of plants used to grow. But nowadays I don't see those plants. Even a particular kind of fern used to grow in and around my house. Now I don't see all those ferns also. Not a single plant is there. That means maybe because of the climatic change, or maybe that continuous weeding of, because we treated those plants as weeds now, those unnecessary plants. So we keep on plugging it up and we keep on throwing away. So maybe because of that it got extinct from my place. I don't see those plants. I have seen those plants in Lake Chettri last year. Same plant. And somebody was telling me that this, if you take a spoonful of the juice of that plant, then it will reduce your pressure. I don't know whether it is correct or not. I have not verified it, but somebody told me, because I saw that in lecture, so I informed him, during a conversation, I told him that look, this plant used to be there in my place also. Nowadays I don't see these plants in my place. So that fellow, that gentleman told me that this plant can be used as a medicine to reduce your blood pressure. So maybe that is true. So extinction, many of these species have been extinct now from the world. So many things. Like right from the dinosaurs till today, I think millions of species are extinct. And destruction of habitat also. Ecological disruption. So when all these things, plant and animal species gets extinct, then this will have an effect on ecological imbalance, because these are related to each other. Now just take a small example. Now in Sikkim, these macaques, monkeys are a menace in Sikkim. They are everywhere. Even in my office also, I get to see so many monkeys. Some of them, they just keep on sitting beside my window the entire day, as if they are asking for employment. So why that is so? That is so because there is no predator for monkeys in Sikkim. Because to me, monkey can be killed only by leopards. Since they keep, the monkeys climb up in the trees. So even if we have tigers in and around, they will not be able to kill monkeys because tiger cannot climb. So it is the leopard who can kill them, but we don't have leopards. So that's why maybe in my place at Lingmo only there are thousands of monkeys, and they are destroying, crops, vegetables. Even some of the monkeys, they are entering inside the house and taking all those stuffs from inside the house. So that thing happens, spread of disease. So when we kill some animal like we call it this deer and pork, and if we bring that carcass home, then maybe that animal is already infected with certain kind of disease. So it will spread the disease. Like recently, I don't know you have noticed or not, in this Biju area and all the animals, be it a monkey, even the wild boars and all, they're having, they're suffering from some kind of disease. It looks like they're suffering from scabies. A lot of them are dying. So if we bring those things, if we capture those things and bring into our place, then all the diseases will also come along with it. So they might infect our domestic animals also. That is also a risk. Support and encourages other criminal activities. So it is not only, the wildlife crime, but these wildlife crimes supports other crimes also. Because most of these crimes, wildlife offences, are being committed by those who are already in this kind of illegal trade, like drug dealers, smugglers, all these people. Now there are different types of wild flora and fauna which are being trafficked, which are being trafficked. It is important to know as to why these flora and fauna are being trafficked. It is done for using as exotic pets. I used to have one monkey in my house long time back when I was a student. But it is not an exotic pet. But there are people across the world who have so much of money they can even afford to keep tigers and elephants at their homes just to maintain the status. It's nothing more than that. So used for medicine, ornaments, ivory. It is basically used for ornaments. I have a kukuri in my house. It belonged to my grandfather. The handle of that kukuri is made of ivory. It's a pure ivory. I should not be disclosing all these things to you all. Maybe someday you will come to my house, raiding my house on this. But I have that. So, status symbol, trophies. You must have seen in Hindi movies and all, no? All those, you call it as taxidermy. All those, tigers and lions preserved in the house. It's not a live one, but it's a dead one. It's only the skin. I don't know what they do. It looks like as if it is, live animal. So food delicacies that we all know. These are all delicacies, and it is very lucrative. Forms of wildlife trafficking. Live animal trafficking is one. Turtle, parrot, big cats, reptiles. Chinese have a lot of demand for tiger bones and reptiles. Why? Because tiger bone is used for medicine, and reptiles, more particularly the cobras. They eat these cobras, and they have a belief, I don't know, maybe that is true also, it will keep you young forever. And there is a market in China where you can get all type of reptiles. There are snakes everywhere in that market, and you can just choose one. You want to eat, you can just choose one. They will pick it up, they will kill it, cook for you, and you can have it. And for cobras, what they do, they take that bile of cobra and the blood of cobra. They will mix it and they will drink it raw. That will keep your strength forever. That is what they believe. So they have a high demand. Even seahorse, they have a high demand in China. And animal parts and by its byproducts, derivative like ivory, rhino horn, ivory, tiger bones, deer bile, ox spot, this all we know. Dhaluko pitta bhन्छ. It's a medicine. Now, plant species like exotic plants, medicinal plants, sandalwood, etc. We have a very famous case with us of the sandalwood. The great Virappan of Karnataka. He used to be called as the sandalwood king of South. So, but I fail to understand what they do with this sandalwood. Because we as Hindus, we use sandalwood for, religious purposes. But this is basically a red sandalwood. I don't know what they do. Mostly this is also, trafficked to China and all these Southeast Asian countries. This marine wildlife trafficking like coral, sharks, seahorse, etc. Coral also fetch a very, very high price in the international market. There are particular kind of coral, that purple coral, that goes, the price of that purple coral runs into crores of rupees. So these are few forms of wildlife crimes. Maybe there are some more also. Now, meat trade. This shalco massive, this is good for gouts, once up. And deer and all, it's a delicacy. It's very tasty. Online trafficking through internet, dark web, etc. Trophy smuggling. Singer raksa ni manchale. Sing raksa. Body parts of raksa. Tiger skin. Now, this is something which is worrying actually. The convergence with other crimes. The wildlife offense is not functioning or not being conducted in isolation. It has converged with a lot of other offenses and other international crimes. Now, wildlife trafficking is the fourth most lucrative crime globally after drug, arms and human trafficking. Just look at this figure. The business net worth is 23 billion US dollars. It's not in million also, it's in billion, that too in dollars. Just imagine. Now, wildlife trafficking does not operate in isolation. It intersects and converges with many other serious crimes, creating a complex network. It has converged with all those, illegal activities, be it a terrorism, be it a drug trafficking, human trafficking, arms. Because the person who is dealing in arms, illegal arms trade, he is also dealing in this wildlife offenses. Now, this criminal network threatens both biodiversity and global security. They are threatening both. They are threatening our biodiversity, our environment, as well as the global security. Because money is flowing not within a country. The money, the consideration amount which you generate from these kind of offenses are flowing across the borders. Wildlife trafficking is often conducted by drugs, arms and human trafficking networks. Because they are masters in all these things. Because even the arms are being trafficked, they are bringing arms. Maybe in India they are bringing arms or drugs from outside India and they are taking wild animal products from India to other countries. So they are indulged in all these things. So use of same route, network, manpower and logistics. It is easy for them. They are already in this kind of trade. If they are bringing drugs, they cannot bring it openly. So how they are bringing drugs and arms from outside the country, the same way and through same route and using the same logistic and manpower, they are taking all this outside the country. So this is one of the examples which I found where some of the ivory recovered at South African ports were found having traces of heroin. That means they are smuggled together along with the heroin. So that's how, they draw a conclusion that all these drug traffickers, human traffickers, and all those, internationally, playing criminals, they are indulged in this kind of offenses. Corruption. This also encourages corruption. Because without the support of all these people like custom officials, border agents, rangers, it is not possible. Because you can take one consignment or two consignment, but you cannot take all these consignments regularly across the border until and unless you have some kind of connection with these people. Now another serious thing is money laundering. Now you have generated a lot of wealth from the wildlife trafficking, the wildlife offenses. Now how you will use that money? Because you cannot use it directly, because that is an illegal money. It's a black money, you can see. Now how they are using? They are investing this money in all these shell companies. Shell companies, real estate and other businesses. So what is a shell company? Shell company is a company which exists only in papers. It is a suitcase company, I would say. So it exists in papers, but it don't exist physically. So they just take this money, invest in that company, and from that company they will again take it back. So after it comes from that company, it becomes a legal money. The company has earned it. That is how they are laundering. It's not only a shell company, there are a lot of other things. You must have heard about hawalas. That is how the money is being transferred. Like if you pay 1 lakh rupees here in Siliguri, you will get 95,000 rupees in Nepal or Kathmandu. 5% is their commission. If you pay 1 lakh rupees in Kathmandu, you will get 95,000 rupees in Siliguri in cash. That is how they transfer money. Because officially you cannot transfer all these monies. Because you have to show how you earn this money, whether this is a legal money or not. So unofficially you can transfer through hawalas. Even some of my acquaintances have done that. They have transferred money from Kathmandu, Nepal to Sikkim. It is possible. You can transfer any amount of money. There are Marwaris sitting in Siliguri, they will give you. That is how the money is being transferred. So after transferring this money, they will just rotate this money through shell companies and all these things. And they will make all this black money as white money and use it. Now, another very dangerous thing is terrorism and militants funding. This is a recent report. The investigation into various wildlife offences revealed that some terror groups and militant groups are being funded out of the money from wildlife trafficking. And it is a give and take offer. How it is a give and take offer? Because most of the terrorists or most of these Naxal and Naxalites, they stay in jungle only. So poaching is a very easy thing for them. They will kill it. They will just, terrorists and militant will facilitate you all to kill, poach, kill and get the byproducts. So in lieu of that, the person who is dealing in, because Naxals, they cannot sell it outside because most of the time they are in hidings, so they cannot come out. So they will do the needful in the jungle, kill the animal, get the products. Then somebody from outside will go collect it, sell it in the market, and out of that money he will share certain amount of money to these terrorist groups. So this is the biggest threat. Now, cybercrime, with the advent of digital economy, wildlife products are being sold through, like I said, social media as e-commerce platform and dark web. They are selling. Encrypted communication and cryptocurrency are being used for making payments. So they are using all this encrypted communication. You know how the Twin Tower was destroyed in USA? How they communicated? They communicated through the net only, but not using the net. You must be confused now how they did it. How the terrorists did it. What they did, because how the data is being transferred from one computer to another computer through internet. It is in the form of binary code, isn't it? 0101. So what they did, they created a email ID in someone's name, one of the terrorists. Then they shared the email ID and password to all the persons who were involved in that terror attack. So whatever information was there, whatever information were to be shared among the persons who are conspiring to attack the Twin Tower, they used to log into that email, because password, they shared the password with everyone. Like we, the people, the 10 of us were involved. Take an example, we were involved. So we all were having the password of that same email ID. So data never transferred from one computer to another computer. It remained in email only. So if you want some information to be, seen, then you just log into that email and you will see the information, or you will take the message from that. And if I want some information, then I'll log into the email and I'll get that information. So that's why the CIA agency, which is known for its technology and the sharpness, could not trace the sharing of the information. Actually, it never traveled. If you send it by a net, then they can trace it. But if it is never sent, and if it remains in someone's email ID, then nobody will doubt also. No? And that too, that information was not stored in in words format. It was stored in pictorial form, like a picture of the Mona Lisa. If you have a picture of Mona Lisa in your laptop or in your computer, that too will also be stored in 0101 format. So if you want to convey something, they used to change the color of a portion of the Mona Lisa. And you just pick particular portion of Mona Lisa and analyze it and use that 010 to convert that into the words. That is how they transmit data. It is a very hi-fi thinking. It was beyond our imagination, but they did it. So encryption is, it's a height of encryption. So if that form of encryption is used, because nowadays with the invent of AI and all, anything is possible in the cyber world. So you can never trace it. And payment now, you can do it in cryptocurrencies. There will be no physical transfer of money. It will be done in cryptocurrencies only. Now, effect of convergence undermines the rule of law and weakens the institutions through bribery. Undermines the rule of law. once these kind of offences are being committed, then we ourselves will feel that despite of all this due diligence, we are not being able to control it. So we have a kind of setback in our minds. Why we are not being able to do it? Because they are far ahead of us. They are using technology, they are using so many things. Now, threatens security as it encourages cross-border movement of persons, money, arms, etc. So, obviously, it threatens. The data in India. In India, we cannot keep arms. Freely, you cannot keep it. Unlike in US and other countries, you have a right to keep a firearm. But in India, we cannot. But one data shows that the number of licensed firearm is much less than the unlicensed arms which the people in India possess. It's almost 10 times more than that. So that is how it is starting. Because all these people who deals in all kind of smuggling and all, definitely they will keep arms with them also, and they smuggle arms from outside the country in Indian territories. They may smuggle bombs, the RDX, so many things. So it threatens the national security and destroy ecosystem. Rampant poaching leads to the loss of key species and destroys ecology. Effect. Now what is the effect? Effect of wildlife crimes, because now it has converged in so many other offences. Now what is happening? Because of all this convergence and increasing number of offences in and around us, what is happening? It disturbs the tourism and other livelihoods. Like one simple example, day before yesterday, that Pahalgam incident. Now tourism is totally over in Kashmir. So likewise, if you have terrorism activities, if you have all these kind of activities in and around your place, then tourists will not come to your place. They will have a kind of feeling in their minds. Maybe some shooting will happen, some illegal activities will happen. So where they will be the sufferers, maybe they will be the victims. So they will be reluctant to affect the livelihood of those who are dependent on the wildlife tourism and forestry. Like if somebody is dependent on wildlife tourism, like safari and all. Now if in Kaziranga, let us take an example of Kaziranga. Kaziranga National Park is famous for rhinos. If I kill all the rhinos from Kaziranga, then nobody will come for the safari, because there is no point going to the Kaziranga, because there are no more rhinos. So this will affect the tourism and those who are dependent on tourism activities. Now, there are a lot of people involved in these tourism activities in Kaziranga, and they are sustaining their livelihood out of the income which they generate from the safaris and all, jungle safaris and all. Now, how to deal with these convergences? Cross-sectoral collaboration. Cooperation and collaboration between the environmental law enforcement agencies like your Forest Department, Customs, Border Security, Intelligence Agencies, Police, Cybercrime Units is critical to tackle these wildlife offences. So now it is not, earlier we used to think that wildlife offences is limited to our forest only, but it is not so. Now it is not limited to forest only. Now if we have to look for an wildlife offences, then first and foremost thing that we have to look into all these things. First and foremost we have to look into the mobile phones of all the individuals. So now collaboration from all these agencies is very, very important because this is cross-border things. So if these agencies do not collaborate with each other, then it is not possible to handle these wildlife offences. Intelligence sharing is very, very important because I know one person who is posted in Sikkim, is a captain of subsidiary SIB, Subsidiary Intelligence Bureau. He has lot of inputs in all these things. Not only this, drugs, wildlife trafficking, human trafficking, all these things. They collect intelligence. And he shares those intelligence with the top officials. Of course, not with us. But if we ask, then maybe they will share it. If it is related to the wildlife offenses, then we can always, request these agencies to share. Now, other is strengthening law and legal framework. Of course, the Wildlife Protection Act is already there. It is of, I think, 1972. Isn't it? 1972. So we have the act in place, and it has been amended many times to make it more, comprehensive and stringent. So stringent law and its enforcement is necessary for tackling wildlife offences, intelligence sharing, real-time data and information sharing between the agencies and countries helps uncovering the crime and its network. So timely sharing of data is also very, very important. If you share the data after 1 month, then it's of no use because by that time the खाएर पचाइ पनि सकेको हुन्छ. So it is of no use. So timely sharing of data is very, very important. So this is something with regard to the first topic. I won't be dealing with each and every topic because what I feel is there are few things which is important for audience like you all to know. So I prepared my slide in that line only. So I'll not be talking in all the topics. Maybe I'll be skipping few of the topics because of the positive time also. Because now after this I have to go back again to my office to handle few important issues. So I may not be dealing with all those things. So this is something with regard to the first topic which I got from the academy. So if you have any queries or any further information you want from me, you can always ask. If you don't have any questions to ask, then we'll move on to the next slides. Now, we're talking about the act, stringent act, or legal framework. So what we have with us to fight with these kind of offences. So we have Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Now, I will not be dealing with each and every section of the Wildlife Protection Act because the mandate given to me was the salient features of the Wildlife Protection Act only. So I will be dealing only with the salient features and I will be dealing more with the investigation and trial issues. Maybe that is important because you are the enforcement agency. So your concentration or your focus should be more on investigation and trial of the offences. So, salient features of the Wildlife Protection Act. Article 48A of the Constitution provides that the state needs to protect and improve the environment and safeguard wildlife and forest. It is there in our Constitution, which was brought into place way back in 1950. So, during those days, when this poaching was not rampant like today, even the framers of our Constitution, they had a feeling that this kind of provision needs to be there in the Constitution itself. So they had the vision that if we destroy our wildlife, then we will be destroying the entire ecosystem and maybe the entire human race one day. That's why they have all these things in the constitution only. So Article 51A, this is nothing but this is a fundamental duties. So Article 51A imposes fundamental duties on the citizen to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. It is there in the fundamental duties also. As a citizen of a great country like India, we only think about our rights. We only speak about our rights only. Maile ke pauncha. What are my rights? But we never talk about the duties, although it is there in the constitution. It was not there earlier. These fundamental duties were brought much later in the constitution, because earlier when the constitution was framed by the Constituent Assembly, the framers of the constitution were having the thought process in the mind that since India was under the British control for almost more than 200 years, so we only should be talking about the rights, not the duties, because we have suffered a lot. But later on, the framers of the constitution felt that no, if you do not have what happened? Okay. If you do not have duties, then your rights will be invalid. Because why is that? Because rights and duties are interrelated thing. Once a person's right is others' duty. That's why this was included in the fundamental constitution of India. So this is our duty to protect all this lake, forest, wildlife, everything. So need for enacting the Wildlife Protection Act. Our country is having a varied flora and fauna, animal, plants. Our country is a reservoir of all these things. Even in Sikkim, if we conduct a research, then we'll be able to trace out so many species of plants, so many species of animals, butterflies, birds, and all. And recently, I was reading in the newspaper that one butterfly is traced in a jungle near Rapanga, which is known as the Bharat or Hindukush or Hindustan, something like that name.
Kesari Hind.
Kesari Hind, yes, Kesari Hind. Kesari Hind. So there are a lot of things in Sikkim also. So there are a lot of things in the entire country. So there is a rapid decline in number of these species. It's declining day by day. A drastic decrease in the flora and fauna can cause ecological imbalance which affects climate and ecosystem, like we discussed earlier. So need was felt to protect flora and fauna. Accordingly, Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 was enacted. So Wildlife Protection Act is an act of the Parliament to protect the plant and animal species that are in danger due to natural or other reasons. So danger to these plants and animals is not only natural, but there are other reasons also. So what are those other reasons? Other reasons are the human beings. Actually, we are the other reasons. We are the ones who are poaching. We are the ones who are smuggling all these animal products, byproducts. So the other reasons are us actually. So we as an enforcement agency, we are responsible to control all these things. That's why this Wildlife Protection Act was enacted. Now the Act contains 66 sections altogether. There are 66 sections. So chapter 1 contains, this is definition short title. Now 2 deals with authorities, 3 deals with protection of species, specified plants. It provides for declaration of sanctuaries, national parks and all. Chapter 4, it deals with Jew authority and recognition of Jews. Now 5 deals with trade and commerce in wild animals, articles, trophies and all. With the permission, you can keep some of the animal trophies with you. Now chapter 5a deals with the prohibition of trade and commerce and trophies, etc. Now 6 deals with prevention and detection of offense, and 7, these are all miscellaneous provisions. Now that second chapter, it deals with the setting up of the national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, etc. with provision of providing protection to some endangered plants. It provides for appointment of wildlife advisory board, wildlife warden, their powers, duties, functions, everything is there in the Act. Because I am not quoting this section because it is of no use. Because nobody remembers all the 66 sections. Even I don't remember all these sections. So, just to give you a gist only, what is there in the Act. So to me, knowing all the law is not important. You should be knowing in which book you will find all these laws. So that is important. So if you know that much, then you can always read the book and get the required information from the book. So remembering the section is not important. Provides guidelines for framing policies and advising central and the state government on promotion of wildlife conservation and controlling poaching and illegal trade of wildlife and its products. Make recommendation for setting up and managing national parks, sanctuaries and other protected areas, and suggesting measures for improvement of wildlife conservation. Under this Act, comprehensive listing of the endangered species has been done for the first time, and prohibition of hunting of the endangered species has been put. If you see the schedule, there are I think 6-7 schedules under the Act where they have tabulated everything, whichever species are endangered species, because Schedule 1 is those species which are at the verge of extinction. Likewise, Schedule 2 are those species which are little less, vulnerable. Likewise, they have categorized all the species under the Act. Now, Schedule 1 to 5 is in accordance with the risks of survival. Here it is mentioned. Animals included in the Schedule 1 are prohibited, totally protected from hunting, and trade and commerce related to such animals are strictly regulated. Now, with the Amendment Act in 1991, powers of the state government have been withdrawn almost totally. Now, the state government are not empowered to declare any animal as vermin. Further, by the addition of provision, immunization of livestock within the radius of 5 kilometers from national park is mandated. This is section 62. If you see section 62, it is there. Earlier, wildlife warden was having the powers to declare certain wildlife as vermins. What is a vermin? Vermin means those wild animals who are danger to the humans or who are the ones who are damaging the crops and the livestock. So those are vermins. It can be a bear also, it can be a tiger also, lion also, anything. So earlier state has the power, but nowadays this power has been, since 1991, this power has been withdrawn by the central government. So you cannot, state forest department cannot declare any of the scheduled animals as vermins. That's why you have not been able to kill even a monkey. That is the problem. Now, if the forest officers, I don't know whether you remember all these things or not, there was one amendment forwarded to the government of India, because there was an issue in 2015 and 16 where state government wanted to control few of these vermins. So we wanted some kind of amendment in the Act, state amendment, so that we can issue the orders for controlling these vermins. But the Ministry of Forest outrightly rejected our amendment And when I became the law secretary in 2021, in 2022 we withdrew that bill, amendment bill, in our legislative assembly and from the government of India ministry. So now this power has been withdrawn. We cannot. It's not that with the permission of the central government, we can still do it if they permit. But of our own, we cannot do it. Now, some key points which I wanted to highlight. So, it is not defined in the act. So I just wanted to highlight all these things. Hunting. So, what things are considered as? What type of acts are considered as hunting? So, killing, poisoning, trapping, attempting to hunt wild animals, injuring or taking part of their bodies, or distributing or damaging birds or reptile eggs. This is also, if you disturb the habitat also, that will also be considered as hunting. Now, illegal possession. Possessing, purchasing, acquiring wild animals, article, trophies or meat without proper authorization. This is illegal possession. So this is an offense. Contravention of the provision of the act and the rule is a punishable offense. There is a small mistake. That space is not there. It is rule is. So imprisonment up to 3 years or the fine of rupees 1 lakh for the contravention of any of the provision of this act or the rules made under this act. Now, imprisonment of at least 3 years and fine of 25,000 if animal is specified in Schedule 1 are involved. If somebody kills an animal which is specified or listed in Schedule 1, then at least 3 years means if he is convicted, then he has to undergo imprisonment at least for 3 years. You don't have a choice. You cannot say that I'll only pay the fine. Instead of 25,000, I'll pay 50,000, but let me go. He cannot. He has to undergo imprisonment at least for 3 years. Now, for second and subsequent offence, imprisonment shall not be less than 3 years, but which may extend to 7 years. If he is an habitual offender, for such second and subsequent offences are being committed by such person, then this is the prescribed punishment. Now, apart from the prescribed punishment, the authorities also have the powers for forfeiture of the wildlife articles. If you have a skin, you can forfeit it. If you have a horn, you can forfeit it. The cancellation of permit, license or arm license, etc. Even the forest department can cancel the arm. Not exactly cancel the arms license, but you can always recommend that because of this is reasons, his arm license may be cancelled. By the way, I also possess one arm license. I have one, DB bell gun with me. It's a double barrel gun. It's a very old gun, maybe 100 years old. So you can do all these things also. Now if, I don't know whether in Sikkim we are issuing that permit or not, but in other states, like the forest department, they issue permits. Like we issue permit for quarry and all, they even issue permit for collecting all those things from the forest also. So if a person to whom a license or the permit has been issued by the forest department to do certain kind of things, maybe to collect some water, maybe to collect some firewood. So if it does any kind of offense, then you can just cancel all those permits also. Wildlife may include any animal, bees, butterfly, crustacean, fish, moth, aquatic or land vegetation which form part of any habitat. So it is not, wildlife not only includes and denotes the lion, tiger, elephant, but it denotes everything, all the plant species, all the aquatic marine lives also, and vegetation also. Wild animal would mean any animal found wild in nature and includes any animal specified in these schedules. habitat would include land, water or vegetation, which is the natural home of any wild animal. So what is an habitat? It is their home. Now, it is already there. Injuring or destroying or taking part of the animals, reptiles, even damaging their eggs, trophy would include this. Now I was just, mentioning this taxidermy. This is that putla. That is taxidermy. I have seen this taxidermy in the palace of Manadaura of India in Gwalior. Now, this is all about the Wildlife Protection Act. These are the only, few salient features, key features of the act. Now, the next act which we are dealing today is this one, the Biological Diversity Act of 2002. It is of 2002. I think it is of 2002. 2002. So, basically this act is totally different from the Wildlife Protection Act. It talks something, different. Not the protection of wildlife or the wild species, but it talks something different. It talks about the regulation of all these bioresources. Because whatever we have in our forest, whatever we have in our, in the wild, those are our resources. So we can use these resources, but not in the way that we'll be destroying everything and there will be nothing will remain for the future use. So जरैबाट उखालेर चाहिँ लानु भएन भन्ने खालको एक्ट रहेछ यो चाहिँ इक्विटेबल शेयर इन बेनिफिट्स arising out of the use of biological resources. So if there is a village near to these restricted areas who have the knowledge regarding all these bioresources, like there are a lot of plants which has medicinal values. So if we can fetch those plants in a regulated manner, then it is a revenue generating thing for us and it will save a lot of lives also. So how to regulate all these things, it is there in this act to conserve and sustainable use of biological resources. So under this act talks about the situation where you have to protect the wild environment also, and you can draw something from the wild environment also, and you can use it also. Now, setting up the National Biodiversity Act, then the State Biodiversity Act, and this Biodiversity Management Committees. This national is the national level biodiversity authority. Now, another is the State Biodiversity Board. Now this Biodiversity Management Committee this committee is at the Panchayat level actually. This is the lowest level committee who will deal in all these things. Because this Panchayat and the villagers are the one who has all the knowledge regarding these resources. Maybe we don't know or much about all these resources, but these people know about these resources. What is happening? Screen. Now next slide. National Biodiversity Authority, State Board. Just a second. So this national authority, state board are required to consult BMC, that is the lowest level authority, committee, in discussion relating to the bioresource related knowledge within their jurisdiction. Like I said, they are the ones who possess all this knowledge. What type of plants, what kind of animals exist in and around their locality. They are the ones who can tell all these things. They can share the knowledge. To secure sharing of benefits with local people as conservers of the biological resources and holders of the knowledge and information relating to the use of biological resources. Like in my place in Lingno, there used to be one, person, Pandit, who used to have all the knowledge of this, the resources, all those medicines. I don't know that fellow is there or not, but there used to be one fellow who used to have the knowledge of, all those medicines which will heal your, broken bones and all. He used to treat people. So these people, because what kind of plant is being used to heal those things is his knowledge. So he is the one who possesses this knowledge. So sharing of this knowledge is also very important. And not only sharing of the knowledge, if he has the knowledge, then he should be rewarded for that also. So that is what this act says. Now another important point which the provision which this act has is all foreign nationals or organizations required prior approval of the National Biodiversity Authority for obtaining biological resources and other associated knowledge for use. So if some foreign bodies or foreign authorities are coming to India for any kind of research in biological resources, then this is the authority who will give them the permission. Now Indian scientists and individuals require approval of the NBA for transferring result of research to the foreign national. If Indian national or the Indian company registered within India has done certain research in all these products and bioresources, and if these company or an individual wants to share this knowledge with some foreign companies, then also you need a permission. You cannot just share it. For conservation and development of the area's biological diversity importance. Area biological diversity importance, like which area is more fragile, where you have to have certain kind of protection, all these things, and declare them as biological diversity heritage sites. I don't know in Sikkim we have any such sites or not, but they can declare it. Do we have any such sites in Sikkim?
We have in Jammu.
Jammu, okay.
First biodiversity site. A lake has been declared.
Okay. Recently or long time back?
I think 2 years back or so.
2 years back. Okay. So it is this national authority who does all these things. Protection and rehabilitation of threatened species. It also talks about this. Involvement of the institution of the state government in the implementation of Biological Diversity Act through constitution of committees like that, panchayat level committees and all. Protect India's rich biodiversity and associated knowledge against their use by foreign individuals and organizations without sharing the benefit arising out of such use. So if you are using our biological resources and our knowledge, then you have to share some benefits also. That is what the act says. So this Indian University needs to give prior permission. We also need permission. Provision for notifying heritage site by the state government in consultation with local body, creation of a national, state level, local biodiversity fund, and its use for the conservation of the biodiversity. So prior approval is needed from National Biodiversity Authority for intellectual property rights in any invention in India or outside India on bioresource. So if any invention is there, like if I have invented something, I can patent it. Like that will be my property. there is a concept called intellectual property right. Like, it's not a physical property, it's an intellectual property. It is kind of formula which I possess because I invented it. So if I have certain, intellectual rights, if I've invented something, some formula, then to have that also I need the permission of the national authority. So Act provides penalties for the contravention of section 3, 4, 6 and 7 of the Act. Contravention or attempt to contravene or abet the contravention or provision of this Act. These 3, 4, 6 and 7 are nothing but that if you are sharing the knowledge, if foreign authorities are coming for research and all without permission, if they enter into all these sites, all these areas, now that is an offence under this Act, and this is the prescribed punishment. Such person shall be liable to pay penalty which shall not be less than 1 lakh rupees, but which may extend to 50 lakhs rupees. So it's a very hefty fine, where the damage caused exceeds the amount of penalty. Like if penalty is 1 lakh, but the damage done is 10 lakhs, then what happens? Like, do you remember there was one case in Sikkim also? Some Russian nationals, they collected some butterflies from West Sikkim. From Yaksum. Perhaps it's from Yaksum. So that time I think I was magistrate here in Gangtok. I met those people, they were in jail that time. I still remember the name of one. The name of one of the accused was Elgor. So they paid fine that time. So if you cause damage, then penalty should commensurate the damage. That is what the Act says. If the damage is of 10 lakhs and the fine is only 1 lakh, then you have to pay 10 lakh, not only the fine. An additional penalty may be imposed. And in case the failure or contravention continues, an additional penalty may be imposed which shall not exceed 1 crore rupees, and such penalty shall be decided by the adjudicating officer appointed under section 55A. Under section 55A, Government of India has the authority to appoint an adjudicating officer. Who will adjudicate this? An officer will be appointed who can adjudicate what should be the amount of fine to be imposed upon a particular accused in a particular case. So under 55A, central government will appoint that adjudicator, and that adjudicator will impose fine under this Act for any contravention of the provisions of this Act. Contravention of direction or order of the central government, state government or authorities is punishable with fine which may extend to 1 lakh rupees. This is also there. Not only the provisions of the Act, but if you contravene the provisions of any, if you contravene the direction and the orders of the government also, then that is also an offence. Second and subsequent offence is punishable with fine which may extend to 2 lakhs, and for continuing offence 2 lakhs every day. This is the latest amendment, I guess. Every day the fine will be increased by 2 lakhs. Authority or empowered officer of the central government for the purpose of inspection, survey, etc. has the power to enter upon any land, vehicle or premises. This power is also given under section 55B. You can enter into any premises. For what purpose? Collect information, prepare map or seize material or records. If you suspect that certain materials are to be recovered or seized from a particular premises in connection with an offence or violation of the provisions of this Act, then he can enter. compel attendance of witness. You can also compel attendance of witness also, if need is there. Issue warrant. This is a magistrate power, issuing warrants. Hold inquiry, receive and record evidence. These are the powers given to that officer who can adjudicate the offence under this act. Now, offence, cognizance of offence. Now, offence has been committed. Now, how you will carry forward the trial of the offence? Where you will file? Where you will go? No court shall take the cognizance of an offence except on the written complaint by central government or the authority or the officer authorized by the central. So, if you want to move to the court, then if there is a situation where you have to go to the court for adjudicating the contravention of the provisions of this act, then it is the central government or the authority or the officer authorized by the central government. Anybody and everybody cannot file the complaint as per the act. So any person or benefit claimer who has given not less than 30 days notice of his intention to make complaint. Like 2 persons can go to the court filing a complaint under this act. One is authorized person who has been authorized by the Government of India. Other one is claimer of the benefit. Like the person who has the knowledge of the bioresource. If some contravention has been done, then he can file the complaint, not the others. So this is just an overview of the Biodiversity Act. Actually it is Biological Diversity Act. I also used to, say only the Biodiversity Act, but when I went through the act, then I found that it is actually the Biological Diversity Act. So everybody, they only say Biodiversity Act, but it is Biological Diversity Act. So this is all about the overview and the salient features of these 2 acts. If we need a break, then we can break for a few minutes, then we can continue with the next few more slides I have, because the topics which are given to me are, there are many topics, almost 5 or 6 topics. So if you want to take a break, you can take a break. We'll again continue with the session after 10 minutes of break, because hearing a boring lecture for a long period of time is also very, very difficult. And my research gives me the knowledge and that expertise that a person cannot concentrate for more than 15 to 20 minutes. So you keep on speaking and deliberating all these lectures, then after 15 minutes nobody listens to you. So it is better we'll take a break for 5 to 10 minutes. We'll refresh ourselves, then we'll again come again and we'll continue with our next session. Thank you. Heavy lunch. Normally after lunch session is always a boring one, but let us complete the task. So now post lunch I will be dealing with 2 more topics only. One will be few cases, and the other very important is the investigation and trial of these offences under the Wildlife Protection Act. So first we will be dealing with the issues in investigation and trial of wildlife offences. This is, I feel, is important for the enforcement agencies actually. Rest of the thing, whatever we have discussed in the previous session, the provisions of the Act, the overview of the Act, types of forms of crime, its convergence with the other offenses. These things we can even, read the article, read in the book. So far as the provisions are concerned, it is already there in the Wildlife Protection Act and the Biological Diversity Act. But now, what we are discussing in this post-lunch session is something which is not in the book. So, and this is important also. Few technical issues, few technical things which we need to understand in the Act, which I will be going to explain to you. Rather, I'll try my level best to make you understand how it is different from the other offences, how the investigation and trial will be different from other offences, and how we can, prosecute in a better way and a successful way. Now, first of all, let me give you a brief background of the, different kind of offences which we normally come across, and the offences are being, dealt with by the courts and the investigating agencies. Like we have conventional laws, like now it's BNS and Adhiniyam, that is IPC, CRPC and evidence, which we call, as a judicial officers and the legal professionals, we call these three laws as criminal major acts, because these are the three pillars of the law, which is kind of Bible for all the professionals. Like Evidence Act is the most important. Then comes the CRPC, the procedural part, and the Indian Penal Code, where the definition, the offences are being defined and ingredients of the offence, and the punishment thereto are prescribed and described in the Act. Now, recently in 2023, these three acts have been repealed. Repealed means it has been done away with. Means old Act has been cancelled. In a simple language, you can say that cancelled, and they have come up with the three new laws. Now, CRPC has become the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita. It's something which is difficult to pronounce also. Then IPC has become BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Now, Evidence Act has become Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam. All Hindi name has been given to all three acts. But it is like old wine in a new bottle. Everything is same except few changes here and there in the act. Rest of the things are same. Now, in our conventional laws, like if we talk about the IPC offences, Indian Penal Code offences, or Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita offences like theft, rape, murder, motor accident cases, robbery, dacoity, so on and so forth. So all these offences, if there is these kind of offences, then when investigation in an offence starts, when it commences, an investigation of an offence commenced, moment information regarding the commission of the offence is given to the police, which we call the information which is given to the police in the legal language, which called it as FIR, First Information Report. Once first information report comes to the police, police will register the case. After the registration, then police will proceed further for the investigation of the offense. Maybe they have to visit the place of occurrence, they have to examine the witnesses, seize the documents, relevant documents, materials. If it is a case of unnatural death, kind of murder, something like that, then post-mortem, then collection of the reports, post-mortem reports, viscera collection, RFSL report, CFSL report, so on and so forth. So, after the registration of the case, they will submit the charge sheet before the court. Charge sheet means the detailed report, what you have done right from the lodging of the FIR till the completion of the investigation. You will prepare a report, then you will mention a prayer saying that under these circumstances, this person has committed the offense under these sections of the law, so he may be prosecuted under this act and punished accordingly. That is how a criminal case will start and end. For the purpose of investigation, it will end when the report is submitted before the court. Like in so many other offenses, even in custom offenses, the report comes, they will investigate, and a kind of charge sheet will be filed. But investigation in wildlife offenses is totally different from what we see in other offenses. Investigation into other offenses under conventional law starts with the lodging of the FIR. Wildlife crime investigation starts with seizure of the article or receipt of the information, but without registration of the case. Because the Act does not mandate registration of the case, unlike in other cases. So, how you will do it then? Jurisdictional court often does not believe in these kind of information and seizure. It is a casual kind of thing. Without registration of the case, without anything, you are just placing a report to the court saying that this thing has happened. So, because we all have a conventional mindset. Because I, as a judicial officer, I have also the same mindset inside me that this case needs to be registered. Then only you can investigate. How? Without registering the case, you can investigate. So how to deal with this situation? Now, what is happening across the country is that when an offense is reported, maybe you come across an offense yourself, or some tip is given to you that in certain places, in a PO, a deer is, have been killed, or a big cat has been shot, or you found a carcass of a tiger. So if this kind of information comes to the authorities, then authority will prepare a report. Wildlife offense report, you can call it. So you prepare a report and submit it along with other things, whatever you have received. Like if you have seized something, then you can include the seizure memo also and produce it before the court. Jurisdictional court means, like in Sikkim, we have 6 districts, and in 6 districts we have various courts. So a court stationed at Gangtok cannot take up the cases which occurred in the jurisdiction of Sikkim district. So jurisdictional court means those courts, if the offense has occurred in this place, that Gangtok court has the jurisdiction of this place. So you cannot file a case at Gazing or Namchi or Pakyam. So you have to approach the jurisdictional court. the court having the jurisdiction over the area. So, what the report should contain? Case number, you can just give it as a case number. You can maintain a diary kind of thing, like the police maintains it. Although it is not mandated in the act. You can maintain the case diary. Then case number 1 of 2025. Then details of the offense, what kind of offense, whether it is a killing, poaching, like logging. Just give a detail of the offense, particulars of the offense. Then detail of the accused, suspect. If you have any knowledge who could have been involved in this incident, then you give his details also. His address, everything, if you know. Then what kind of wildlife involved? Whether it's plant or animal, deer, tiger, lion, fish, butterfly. It could be anything. Now, sections involved. What could be the probable sections involved? What kind of offense was committed? Then, name and right of the officer dealing with the case. Normally, the police, we call it as IO, investigating officer. So, his name also. Then, copy of the report should be sent to the superior officers immediately. Like, if a ranger has come across any kind of information and if he started the procedure, then you have to send the report immediately to your superior officer so that he will also be in the loop. Then, without delay, submit the report before the court. This is the first step. Now, once you submit this report before the court, then court will come to know that this particular case has been initiated by the department, initiated by the implementing agency. Once that is done, then you will investigate the offense. Now, there are different stages in the investigation. Like first and foremost, the recording of the information regarding commission of the offense. You have to record the information. It is not that somebody called you in over the phone and you have not recorded the details. You have to. Because there is a document called case diary which is maintained by the police where they record each and every detail of the investigation. Like if somebody called a police officer that a theft has been committed at Tadum Daragao, then that has to be recorded so that later on you can go through it and produce before the court saying that yes, at this particular point of time and on these days, this information was received, because date and time is very, very important during the trial. Because sometimes what happens, if you do not record it and if you give some imaginary time and date, or you don't know when the information was received, so you just your time you wrote some time in the document. Later on what happens, information go time पछाडि पर्दिन्छ, इन्भेस्टिगेसन गरेको चाहिँ अगाडि इन्फर्मेसनै नआइकन इन्भेस्टिगेसन गरेको जस्तो हुन्छ. सो व्हाट विल ह्यापन, कोर्ट विल आस्क, तपाईलाई जब इन्फर्मेसनै थिएन भने चाहिँ तपाईलाई के सपनामा आएको थियो यहाँ अफेन्स भयो भनेर कसरी इन्भेस्टिगेसन गर्यो भन्छ. बिकज द्याट हैज ह्यापन्ड when I was a CJ. Let me share this with you. There was one offense of theft committed at Ranipur. There were 14 accused persons involved in that case, and it was a theft of those steel plates from that one of the, maybe they are constructing some bridge over there somewhere in Ranipur, and some steel plates were, theft occurred of the steel plates. So what happened was, information was given to the Ranipur PS over the phone by someone Then Ranipur police acted upon the information, went to the place and seized all those steel plates from one abandoned house. But when the mistake which the Ranipur police did was they did not record that information in their diary. Later on what happened was seizure was on today's date and information which they are saying received was on next day. In the report it was like that. So on that count only I had to throw the entire case. Otherwise it was a very good case. So that's why date and time is very, very important. Now, visit of the crime scene and cordoning of the PU. This is also very important. Immediately visit the PU. Because if you do not visit the PU and if you do not cordon off the area, then there is a chance of destruction of evidence. Because whenever an incident occurs, a lot of people will gather in and around the PU. So they will just mess over everything and you will lose the vital evidence before you could collect it. So visiting the PU is very important. Next is investigation at the scene of crime. So you have to minutely check the each and every corner of the PU, place of occurrence. You might get the traces of gunpowder, you might get the footprints, you might get the blood stains, you might get the hair samples, so many things. So that is also very, very important. Now, interrogation of the accused. If you know that this particular person is involved, then you have to interrogate him first. How, when, why, all these things. Then interrogation of the witnesses. You have to establish each and every chain of incidents. Why that is important? Why you have to establish all these things? Because the criminal law, the law of the land say that you have to prove an offense beyond reasonable doubt. That means there should not be doubt from any corner that he is the only person who has committed the offense. If there is a slightest of doubt, then court will acquit him because law says so. Even if there is a 50-50 chances, then law says, Supreme Court says that if there is a 50% chances that this person has committed the offense, and if there is equally 50% that he has not committed the offense, then benefit should always be tilted in favor of the accused. That's why proving beyond reasonable doubt is a very difficult thing. So each and every steps you have taken during the investigation and collection of evidence matters. Because the degree of proof is very, very high in criminal offences. More the punishment, more is the degree of proof. Interrogation of witnesses. Then collection and seizure of the documentary evidence. Maybe nowadays, like we discussed in the previous session, that all these mobile phones, laptops, computers are being used for commission of this kind of offences. So since this is a digital era and digital is, you might get some clue from the mobile phone. Maybe the poacher was carrying a mobile phone at that relevant point of time when he shot a tiger at the PU. If you get the data from the service provider, then you can pinpoint and say that yes, you were present there on that day because your mobile GPS location says that you were there. So all these things needs to be collected and seized. Collection and seizure of samples like the hair sample, blood sample. If there is a blood everywhere in the PU and the allegation is that one deer was shot. If you do not collect the sample and if you only presume that blood was of deer, then what the defense will raise? the objection that maybe it could be the blood of the domestic pig, goat or chicken. It was not analyzed. So one small doubt is created. So that's why collection of samples and sending it for forensic examination is very, very important. We also, in the state of Sikkim, we have our RFSL, Regional Forensics Lab. It is situated in Ranipur, which analyze all the samples, blood sample, hair sample. We don't have a DNA sampling as of now, because that machine which is used for DNA sampling is very, very costly. So we are planning to procure one for the state of Sikkim also, but rest of the samples, it can be analyzed in our RFSL also. So sending of the samples for analysis is also very, very important. Then digital evidence collection, it is also important. Then analyzing the evidence. Now you might collect lot of evidence, lot of documents, lot of papers, and it is not necessary that all the papers, all the samples, all the documents, all the digital footprints or prints, whichever you have collected, are important for your case. Maybe some of those documents are going against your case. So you have to analyze all these documents minutely, and only those documents which are supporting your case should be filed along with your report. Then comes the filing of the complaint under section 55 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Now, the catch here is, it is not the FIR. The provision itself talks about filing of the complaint. That means there is a difference between the FIR and the complaint. What is the difference? Now, like I said, in conventional offences, if it is an offence under the IPC, then FIR is filed. Once you investigate the offence, then you will file the charge sheet. But here, once you complete the investigation, you have to file a complaint directly before the court. Directly before the court. You are not filing the charge sheet. You are directly filing the complaint. Now, what is the difference between the charge sheet and the complaint? Charge sheet is filed under the old CRPC. Charge sheet is filed under section 173 of the CRPC. But this complaint is filed under section 200 of the CRPC. This is kind of, it is in the format of the court. You have to give the entire details, list of witnesses, all the documents, and yourself, if you are investigating the offense, then you will also be one of the witness in this, and you have to give this complaint before the court. So on the date when this complaint is filed before the court, you need to examine the witnesses on the same day before the court. After examining the witness, then only the court will take the cognizance of the offense. Otherwise, court will not take. But in case of filing of the charge sheet, you need not have to examine any witnesses on the day when you file the charge sheet. You just file the charge sheet, court will take the cognizance on the basis of the investigation. Then later on, after the framing of the charge, then only the court will call the witnesses for their examination before the court. Before that, you need not have to examine any witnesses. But in this complaint, you have to examine the witnesses on the day you file the complaint before the court. So your officer, the law officer from your department, he knows that how a private complaint is filed. It is, generally we call it as private complaint. Directly filing a case before the court without the filing of the charge sheet. Now, who can can file this complaint. It is not that if you are investigating officer in this case, you cannot file the complaint before the court. Under section 55, you or such officers who are authorized under the act can only file the charge sheet, only file the complaint before the court. Not everyone. If the secretary of the forest department is not authorized, he cannot file the complaint. Actually, under the act, there are certain persons who can file the complaint. Let me go through this. Section 55. No, 55 is for my list. Director of Wildlife, Member Secretary, Central Zoo Authority, then Member Secretary, Tiger Conservation Authority, Director of the concerned Tiger Reserve, Management Authority or any officer including an officer of the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, Chief Wildlife Warden, the officer in charge of the zoo, any person who has been given the notice of not less than 60 days in the manner prescribed of the alleged offence. So, under section 55, there are certain authorities who are authorized by the act to file the complaint. Only these persons, or if under the act, apart from these persons, if somebody else is also authorized, then he can file the complaint. Rest, others cannot file. If somebody else files the complaint, then that will be a procedural violation, so court will not entertain that complaint in any ways. Now, where the police has the powers, whether police can investigate, police can also investigate the wildlife offences. That is what the Supreme Court says. It is not in the act, but taking cue from this section 55, what the Supreme Court has said, that in the case of this Motilal versus Central Bureau of Investigation, in this case, wildlife offence has been investigated by the CBI. So what the Supreme Court says, that most of the offences are punishable above 3 years. Offence punishable above 3 years are cognizable. Cognizable means an offence which can be investigated by the police without the orders from the court. Those are cognizable offences. There are two kinds of offences. One is cognizable, another is non-cognizable. In non-cognizable offences, even if a report has been submitted before the police or a FIR has been lodged before the police complaining of the incident, but police will not investigate because this is a non-cognizable offence. Like, take an example of a simple hurt. It's a non-cognizable offence. If you just slap someone without any injuries, that's a simple non-cognizable offence. So until the court orders the police to investigate, police will not investigate, even if you have lodged an FIR before the police saying that this fellow has slapped me. So this is non-cognizable. But theft, murder, all these things are cognizable. Without the court's order, police can directly, after the receipt of the FIR, they can investigate. So these wildlife offences, what the Supreme Court has said, that these wildlife offences are also cognizable offences because the punishment is more than 3 years. Now, what the CRPC or the BNSS says, there is a table at the back of this book which categorize the offences, whether it is cognizable, non-cognizable, and other kind of offences. So, in that table, if you see that table, that you will find that it says in IPC all the sections have been categorically stated whether this is a cognizable or non-cognizable offence. But so far as the other offences under the other acts are concerned, like Wildlife Protection Act, Customs Act, so many other acts. So far as those acts are concerned, if any offence under those acts are punishable for more than 3 years, then those offences should also be considered as a cognizable offence. So in this Wildlife Protection Act, all these offences under the Act all the offences under this Act are punishable more than 3 years. So Supreme Court considered that these are cognizable offences, so the police should also be given the powers to investigate the offence. Now, whether the police can file a complaint, if not specifically empowered under Section 55B of the WP Act, he cannot. Like we discussed Section 55, no? There are certain categories of the authorities who can file the complaint before the court. So if police is empowered under Section 55B, then police can also file the complaint. Police can step on the shoes of the forest officials, investigate the offence and file the complaint also. If the state has empowered police or any such officer, he can file. Now, most important thing, we have covered the investigation part also. Who will file the complaint is also covered. Now the most important thing is how to file the complaint. So after detailed investigation, complaint needs to be drafted and filed before the court having jurisdiction containing. Now what should be the contents? First and foremost, the details of the suspect. These persons are involved. What your investigation has revealed, who all were involved. So that is the first thing. That relevant fact. Then you have to narrate the fact also. On that particular day at around this time, we receive a complaint from a person X who stated that this kind of offense was committed in the nearby jungle. So we visited, then we found these, all these facts. So what kind of investigation you have done, what were the samples seized, all these things in detail you have to mention all these things. Then search and seizures, what materials were seized. Now documentary and electronic evidences, list, you have to provide the list, which documents you are filing along with the complaint. Then sketch map of the PU. Normally police prepares all these things, rough sketch map. If the offence has occurred here, then they have to prepare a rough sketch map of this PU. That is important, just to identify the PU. Now, if you come across a carcass of a wild animal, then you have to send it for the post-mortem examination, because you have to prove the cause of death later on. You just cannot say that this was, this animal died because of the poaching or somebody shot the animal. No, because you have to prove it. That's why post-mortem is also very, very important. It is not only, applicable to humans. Even for animals also, you need to have the post-mortem of the carcasses. Then, expert's report, like I said, if you have recovered some samples, blood samples, hair samples, because it is not only, the proving of the facts and other circumstances, you need to prove that this particular carcass or particular thing which we are alleging that this Mr. X has killed is actually the tiger, deer, lion or something. If you fail to prove that, if later on defense is able to prove that no, this is not the carcass of deer, this is a carcass of dog, then go on. So that's why all these things are very, very important. Then specimen of seal used in sealing of the seized articles. When you seize something, you have to seal it. You just can't keep it open. So if you are sealing it, then you have to use some kind of stamp on it. So you have to submit those samples also. Look, यो सीज गरेकोमा चाहिँ मैले यो किसिमको स्ट्याम्प हानेर सीज गरेको छ. Later on, court will compare it. दुईटा मिल्छ कि मिल्दैन, सो त्यो पनि हाल्नु पर्यो। देन इफ आर्म्स आर युज देन ब्यालिस्टिक रिपोर्ट। डिफेन्सले के लिन्छ प्ली भन्दाखेरि गन पनि मेरो हो तर मैले 2 वर्षदेखि चलाएकै छैन, यदि हामीले ब्यालिस्टिक रिपोर्ट लिउन भने हाउ विल प्रुभ द्याट यो गनले सर्ट भएको। इफ हामीले त्यो बुलेटको, किनभने आफ्नो आफ्नो गनको आफ्नो आफ्नो ग्रुपिङ हुन्छ र इफ यु फायर अ बुलेट फ्रम वान गन देन इफ यु हेभ द गन एन्ड द बुलेट विच इज फायर्ड फ्रम द्याट गन is available with you, then you can match the grouping of the gun and the bullet and prepare a report saying that whether this bullet was fired from this gun or not. So ballistic report is important. So that will make sure that this is the gun used and this was fired and the bullet which was found in the body of the carcass was fired from this gun only. That needs to be proved. Then reserve area notifications, because if you are saying that this particular place is a forest reserve or this is a sanctuary, then that notification needs to be filed before the court. And if you are saying that I am authorized to investigate this offence, that notification under 55, the notification under 50. This 50 says, let me read. Power of entry, search, arrest and detention. So you have to be authorized, that you have the powers for entry, search and seizure. So those notifications needs to be filed. Because if you are not authorized and empowered to do all these things, then entire exercise will be a futile exercise. So this needs to be there. So these are few of the things. Maybe there are a lot of other things also which needs to be filed along with the complaint to prove certain offence. So these are few things. Whichever I could gather from my experience, I put it in these slides. So maybe there are more other things also you need to file. RFSL report, CFSL report, postmortem report, specimen, these cold datas, so many things. Maybe in some of the cases, mobile phones, laptops, so on and so forth. Now, you have to enclose all these things in your complaint, and your complaint needs to have all those details, the facts of the case, the person involved, date, time, everything. So only a professional can, draft a complaint, like a lawyer can draft it in a better way, because it has to be drafted in the format of the court. Now, in case of electronic evidence, this is very, very important. If you are filing an electronic evidence, then as per the Evidence Act or as per the Adhiniyam, this is the new Evidence Act of 2023, under section 63 you have to file a certificate. Earlier this section used to be section 65B. Now it has become 63. You can just go through it. You have to produce a certificate saying that this electronic document is procured from this person, it was generated by this kind of machine, this kind of laptop, and it was reproduced by me, or it was printed by me. The person who is having that laptop or that machine with him, he has to give this kind of certificate, certifying all these things. There are a lot of clauses in that 63 which needs to be mentioned in that certificate, saying that मैले यो गरेको, यसरी डाउनलोड गरेको, यहाँबाट यस्तो आएको थियो, यो डाउनलोड गरेर मेरो कम्प्युटरमा भाइरसहरू केही पनि थिएन, my computer was working perfectly fine, so I have generated this and I have handed over to you भनेर त्यस्तो सर्टिफिकेट दिनुपर्छ. That certificate, without that certificate you cannot use that electronic evidence. Now photographs of the seized articles. कुनै पनि कुरा सिज गर्नुभयो भने take pictures. Then copy of the WLOR Wildlife Offence Report, जुन चाहिँ फर्स्ट तपाईहरुले इन्फर्मेसन रिसिभ गर्दाखेरि जुन चाहिँ रिपोर्ट बनाएर तपाईहरुले कोर्टमा दिनुभयो त्यो रिपोर्ट पनि कपी इन्क्लोज गरिदिनुहोस्. All other relevant documents. Then ultimately the list of witnesses. तपाईहरुको केस प्रुफ गर्नु. Like if you are seizing, witness त राखेरै सिज गर्नु पर्यो नि. What the law says is, if you are seizing something, then you need to have two independent witnesses who are the gentlemen from the locality. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि उनीहरुको लिस्ट, यदि तपाईहरुको अफिसरले कुनै नोटिफिकेसन जारी गरेको छ भने नोटिफिकेसनमा केही कुरा प्रुफ गर्नु पर्यो, उनीहरुको नाम हाल्नु पर्यो, तपाईहरुको आरएफएसएल को एक्सपर्टको नाम हाल्नु पर्यो, मैले एक्जामिन गरेको र एक्जामिन गर्दाखेरि यो खून चाहिँ मृगको खून रहेछ भनेर उसले रिपोर्ट दिएको छ भने उसको नाम पनि हाल्नु पर्यो. र अल द रिलेभेन्ट विटनेसेस whoever were there. सपोज कसैले जुन मान्छेलाई तपाईहरुले एक्युज हो यसले मारेको हो भन्नुहुँदैछ भने त्यो दिन चाहिँ बन्दुक बोकेर जंगलतिर जाँदै गरेको देखेको छ भने हिज also material witness. If somebody has seen him coming out of the jungle carrying a gun, then also that is also material witness. Because अब कसैले देखेको छ, यदि somebody has seen the accused shooting the wild animal, then the matter ends. He can be called as a witness. उसले भन्छ मैले देखेको यो मान्छेले नै मार्यो, यसको हातमा गन थियो र यसले नै सुट गरेको. If you don't have an eyewitness, a direct eyewitness, then you have to rely on all the circumstantial things. So all these witnesses list needs to be provided to the court. Because why witnesses are important in the court? Because witnesses are the eyes and ears of the court. Without these witnesses, court cannot. Whatever you say, always remember one thing. चाहे तपाईहरुको पुलिसको केस होस्, चाहे त्यो फरेस्टको केस होस्, तपाईहरुलाई कोर्टले, since you are the one who are prosecuting the accused, तपाईहरुलाई कोर्टले विश्वास गर्दैन. You have to prove everything independently. मैले देखेको, मैले इन्भेस्टिगेसन गरेको भनेर कोर्टले मान्दैन. तपाईहरुले प्रुभ गर्नुपर्छ इन्डिपेन्डेन्ट विटनेस खडा गरेर. That's why list of witnesses is very important. Now there is a provision for compounding of the offense. Even Wildlife Protection Act, you can compound certain offenses. But what I find very interesting in this is 54 says, if reasonable suspicion exists that a person has committed wildlife offense, can be compounded. That means if you have already investigated and you have already prepared the report, maybe you cannot compound all these offenses. But if you have suspected X that he might have committed the offense, then if he comes to you saying that म फाइन तिर्छु अगाडि नबढाइदिनुहोस् भने नि, maybe in those and petty offenses, यदि scheduled animal होइन भने the punishment is less, then in those offenses you can compound. Offenses where minimum imprisonment prescribed under section 51 shall not be compounded. So like I said, at least 3 वर्ष त जानै पर्छ. फाइन मात्रै होइन, 3 वर्ष गएर पनि 25,000 फाइन तिर्नुपर्छ भन्ने खालको अफेन्सेस भएको छ भने चाहिँ you cannot compound it. Rest you can compound भन्छ यसले. Now, what are the issues as an investigating officer, as an IO, as an forest officers we are facing? So, to me, these are few obstacles or the challenges which we face during investigation. That is, unlike the police officer, forest officer lack investigation knowledge and skills because you have not done it. तपाईहरुकोमा केसै भएको छैन, आकै छैन. किनभने पुलिसकोमा त के छ, डे इन डे आउट they are dealing with all these kind of offenses. I don't say the police are highly trained, even they fail in lot of cases, but तपाईहरुलाई झन् साह्रो छ because you have not dealt with this kind of cases. Investigation गर्नु नै भएको छैन अहिलेसम्म. केस आयो भने त इन्भेस्टिगेसन गर्छन्. That's why we lack knowledge and skills. Because if you don't know the procedure, तपाईले के करेक्ट गर्नुपर्ने हो, के नगर्नुपर्ने हो, if you do not know that, if you do not know the do's and don'ts of investigation, then definitely your investigation will fail. So this is one of the hurdle, one of the challenges which we are facing. Forest officials lack training. Training हुँदैन हाम्रो, किनभने अफेन्स छैन भएको छैन भन्छ हामीले यादै गर्दैन, तर जुन दिन हुन्छ त्यसको बादमा ट्रेनिङ गरेर केही फाइदा हुँदैन. त्यसले गर्दा हामीलाई कम्ती नै हुन्छ ट्रेनिङ. I have never seen. This is for the first time I am standing before you as a resource person in forest offences. This is the first training session I have attended in my entire career of almost 26 years. Maybe you must have gone outside the state. Maybe in Meghalaya you have that police academy. They also keep on conducting all these cases. Like we have a very sad state of affair in Sikkim that we never encourage our officers to go for a training. Actually, I have almost 50 certificates with me, which I was awarded for attending the trainings in my entire career of 16 years. More than 50 trainings I have attended all across the country. Hyderabad, Delhi, Bhopal, so many places. Calcutta, Guwahati, Meghalaya, so many places. Because we don't have an option. If you are nominated means High Court means you have to go. If you refuse, tomorrow, tata bye bye, you are gone. But that practice is not in the state. So we should always update our knowledge. Because this is the only thing which will help you at the end of the day when you require this kind of knowledge and skills. So we need to update ourselves. It is important. Now, lack of forensics experts. We don't have forensics expert here in Sikkim who will specifically deal in this kind of forensic offences, wildlife offences. Because we have experts, but they are good in dealing with 302 offences, murder, rape and all. But they have never dealt with a carcass of a deer or an elephant or a tiger. So उनीहरु अगर त्यसै दियो भने they will be confused अब के गर्नु यसलाई भनेर. Lack of forensic expert and dedicated labs for forensic analysis. Lab पनि छैन हाम्रो. Delay in analysis of sample. This is everywhere. 4 वर्ष लाग्छ एउटा sample analyze भएर आउनु. 4 वर्षमा त पृथ्वी up and down भइसकेको. In CFSL Kolkata, there are 14,000 samples pending. 14,000 samples pending. So this is a complex issue. We cannot help it. Now, jurisdictional overlaps. Sometimes के हुन्छ भने पुलिस र फरेस्ट अफिसरको बीचमा तानातानी हुन्छ. त्यो तानातानीमा half the evidence is destroyed. सक्यो. Then हातमा खाली ठेंगा मात्र रहन्छ लास्टमा गएर. Nothing remains. Then remote and difficult crime scenes. Assessing and collecting evidence is a challenge. This is also one of the hurdles. Maybe in Sikkim we don't have these issues because up to the border we have road connectivity. कतिवटा झारखण्डहरुको अरु Indian states मा it's so difficult because these areas are mostly populated by tribals, and unlike our tribals in Sikkim, these people are very dangerous. त्यहाँ जंगलमा पस्यो भने they will kill you. Remote location access गर्नु सक्दैन. They will not allow any outsiders to enter inside their places. So that is a very big issue. थुप्रो जग्गामा त्यस्तो छ. And तपाईं पुग्नु पनि भयो भने by the time तपाईले sample collect गर्दाखेरि half of the sample will be destroyed because हिँडेर जानु पर्यो 2 दिन. हिँडेर फर्किनु पऱ्यो 2 दिन, बाई द्याट टाइम ब्लड स्याम्पल आउनु सक्यो त्यो, भुटेर खायो भने मात्रै हो, कामै लाग्दैन। सो ल्याक अफ रिसोर्सेस, इनएडिक्वेट स्टाफ, सबसे बढ्ने त यो फन्डिङ्स हो, सबसे ठुलो हर्डल यो फन्ड्स। मान्छेको केस गर्नुको लागि पैसा छैन, एनिमलको केस गर्नु कसले दिन्छ पैसा? दिस इज द बिगेस्ट इस्यु। इक्विपमेन्ट छैन। Then lack of specialized knowledge leads to inefficient investigation and prosecution. यदि आफूलाई ज्ञानै छैन, मलाई यादै छैन कस्तो प्रकारले इन्भेस्टिगेसन गर्नुपर्ने, के कलेक्ट गर्नुपर्ने, कसरी रिपोर्ट बनाउनु पर्ने, देन द इन्भेस्टिगेसन फेल्स। Then organized nature of crimes makes it difficult to identify perpetrators. This is a very organized crime. Like I said, all these drug dealers, peddlers, smugglers, international criminals are involved in this. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि उनीहरूको there are lot of shields around them. It could be any kind of shield. I don't want to mention all those things. You can have a wild guess. You can have a shield. They will have a shield because सबैको माइबाप हुन्छ यस्तो अफेन्स गर्नेहरूको। So they will shield them. त्यसले गर्दा तपाईहरुले देखेर जानेर पनि you cannot take action against them. पर्पेट्रेटरलाई आइडेन्टिफाई नै गर्न सक्दैन। Then cross border occurrence of incidents. Like I said, इन्डियामा मार्यो, भालुको पित्त नेपालमा लगेर बेच्दैछ, यहाँ चालै पाएन, नेपालमा चाल पाए, सिक्किमको मान्छेले लगेर बेच्यो अरे, व्हाट यु विल डु? नेपालमा जुरिस्डिक्सन नै छैन। यु हेभ टु गो बाय मिनिस्ट्री, एमएचए को थ्रुबाट जानु पर्यो। एमएचए को थ्रुबाट जानुको लागि यु निड टु हेभ रोगेटरी अर्डर। त्यो अर्डर निक्लिनु नै 1.5 महिना लाग्छ। त्यति बेलासम्म त उनीहरूले यो पैसा खाएर पचाइ पनि सक्छ। व्हाट इज द युज? सो दिस इज अल्सो वान अफ द अर्डर। यो क्रस बोर्डर भएकोले गर्दाखेरि फरेन कन्ट्रिजको कोअपरेसन हुनु जरुरी हुन्छ, बट नर्मल्ली दे विल नट कोअपरेट। यदि यहाँबाट अफेन्स गरेर पाकिस्तान भाग्यो सक्यो, नेपालै पस्यो भने पनि पक्रिन सक्दैन हामीले, हो, किन कोअपरेटै गर्दैन उनीहरूले। नेपालमा त फ्रीली मार्नु पाउँछ, खानु पनि पाउँछ, हो। सो weak enforcement reduces deterrent effect. जब हामीले हाम्रो कानुन यतिको बडा हुँदा हुँदै पनि, since we have a stringent law with us, but when we fail in implementing these laws, then this kind of situation will arise. Weak enforcement हुन्छ, मान्छे डराउनु छोड्छन्, डेटरेन्सी हराउँछ, के हुन्छ र भन्ने हुन्छ नि, because we are not been able to bring them to justice. And burden of proving criminal offense is very high, like I said. It is beyond reasonable doubt. So proving something beyond reasonable doubt is next to impossible. I should not be saying this because camera pani on cha, tara pani it is next to impossible for me, because I have been, dealing with all these things for so many years. As long as I was a lawyer, I was happy that this needs to be proved beyond reasonable doubt, because to prove something beyond reasonable doubt is difficult. त्यसले गर्दा हाम्रो केस हामी त्यसै एज अ डिफेन्स काउन्सिल जितिहाल्थ्यौँ। But once I become a judge, now I find that this, jurisprudence, this theory is a little bit difficult to digest now. But that is the law. Low conviction rate due to weak evidence, procedural lapses, and witness turning hostile. Biggest problem here. One is procedural lapses, अर्को चाहिँ विटनेस टर्निङ हस्टाइल। गाउँकोहरूले नै देखेन, यस्तै थियो, पछाडिबाट मात्र देख्यो, अनुहार त देखेन भनिदिन्छ, हो। Once if the person is not identified, then nobody can do anything. So he will go scot-free. Now, long-term custody of live animals or wild articles is difficult. यो पनि एउटा च्यालेन्ज हो। सपोज एउटा भालु जिउँदो भालु कसैले क्याप्चर गरेर राखेको केस रेजिस्टर गर्नु पऱ्यो। अब त्यो भालु पक्रेर ल्याएर कहाँ राख्नुहुन्छ? सिज्ड भयो नि त्यो, कहाँ राख्नुहुन्छ? जूमा राख्नु भयो अरे 3 दिनमा भालु मऱ्यो भने तपाईँको एभिडेन्स सक्यो। इट्स अ बिग प्रब्लम। देन आर्टिकल पनि सपोज यो के अरे गैँडाको सिङ अरे भनेर सिज गरेर राख्नु भयो अरे, भरे धुल्याले खाएर 2 वर्षमा केही पनि रहेन, एभिडेन्स इज गन। हाउ टु प्रिजर्भ अल दिस थिङ? हाम्रोमा त्यो मेकानिजम नै छैन, हाम्रोमा सिस्टम नै छैन, त्यो प्रिजर्भ गर्ने हाम्रोमा जग्गै छैन। सो फार एज माई नलेज गोज फरेस्ट डिपार्टमेन्टमा त मालखाना पनि छैन यो सबै राख्ने, बिकज माई वाइफ इज अल्सो इन द फरेस्ट डिपार्टमेन्ट ओन्ली, सो आई नो सर्टेन फ्याक्ट्स। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि अब दिज आर अल प्र्याक्टिकल डिफिकल्टिज। Now, chain of custody of article is not maintained. So this maintaining a chain of custody is very important. Suppose तपाईले tiger bone seize गर्नुभयो, you have seized a tiger bones. It's a primary evidence for you. तपाईले seize गर्यो, तपाईले लगेर what you will do, you will deposit it somewhere. पुलिसले त they deposit it in the मालखाना। मालखानामा डिपोजिट गर्दाखेरि कसले रिसिभ गर्यो उसको नाम र सिग्नेचर हुनु पर्यो। त्यस्तो प्रकारले मालखानाबाट सपोज इफ यु आर ट्रान्सपोर्टिङ द्याट टाइगर बोन्स फर केमिकल एक्जामिनेसन टु आरएफएसएल, मालखानाबाट फलानु मान्छेले निकाल्यो, आरएफएसएल पुर्यायो, आरएफएसएलमा रिसिभ भएको पनि हुनुभयो। द्याट इज हाउ द चेन अफ कस्टडी इज मेन्टेन। यदि त्यो चेन अफ कस्टडी मेन्टेन गरेन भने लेटर अन वाट ह्यापन्स, अ डाउट विल बी क्रिएटेड। इन बिट्विन चाहिँ यो कहाँ गयो त यो सामान? खसीको हड्डी थियो, यो यिनीहरूले यो बिचमा प्लान्ट गरिदियो भनिन्छ। सो मेन्टेनिङ अ चेन अफ कस्टडी इज भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट, विच वी डु नट मेन्टेन। देन ल्याक अफ डेडिकेटेड इन्फोर्समेन्ट एजेन्सी अन्डर दि यो बायोडाइभर्सिटी, यो वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्सन एक्ट, यसमा वी डोन्ट ह्याभ, हाम्रोमा छैन यो। हुन त हाम्रोमा अहिलेसम्म त्यस्तो अफेन्स रिपोर्ट भएको पनि छैन, तर अब if some dedicated agency is there, then day in and day out, if they are dealing with this kind of offenses, then automatically they will gain experience and they will not fail. तर वर्षमा एउटा केस गरेर 3 वर्षसम्म नगर्दाखेरि then you will forget everything. By the time 3 वर्ष बादमा अर्को केस रेजिस्टर भयो भने then you have to start from the scratch. के पो थियो भन्दा भन्दै एभिडेन्स डिस्ट्रोय भइसक्छ। सो बायोपाइरेसी एन्ड अनअथराइज रिसर्च आर डिफिकल्ट टु ट्र्याक। ट्र्याकै गर्नु सकिँदैन यो, कहाँ हुँदैछ रिसर्च, अन्डरग्राउन्ड रिसर्च होला। सो दिस इज समथिङ विच इज विथ रिगार्ड टु द इश्यूज इन इन्भेस्टिगेसन ट्रायल एन्ड प्रोसिजर। सो there are lapses and difficulties and challenges everywhere, right from the investigation, trial and all those procedural lapses. So we have to correct all these lapses to secure the conviction of an offender under the Wildlife Protection Act or the Biodiversity Act. That is very important. Now I have only last slide where we will be discussing few of the cases. CRPC is applicable and police has the power to investigate. Earlier also we have discussed. So in this case CBI investigated the wildlife offence and it was challenged before the court saying that under the act police has no jurisdiction to investigate and file the complaint. But the Supreme Court says that since CBI was authorized by the government under the act, under section 55, so they have the power Another is Ashwin Kumar Bhardwaj, State of Rajasthan, challan filed by the officer not specifically empowered has been passed by the court. So in this case what had happened was, challan was filed, that report, that complaint was filed, but he was not authorized under the act. So court said that nothing doing, you are not the authorized officer, you cannot file it. So entire case was thrown. As I don't know how to pronounce this, versus State of Karnataka. This name is very difficult. Baileha. Proceeding before the magistrate was quashed as the complaint was not filed by the authorized person. Same thing. These are all procedural lapses. So it always hurts when somebody, an offense which was so serious in nature, and you have the accused, you have the perpetrator, everyone, the witnesses in front of you, but only because there are some procedural lapses you have to let him go. That is the most, difficult moment for a judicial officer. I have done in many of the cases. State of UP versus Lallu Singh, in view of section 50 of the Act, this is with regard to this 457 and 451, this is with regard to the release of the seized articles. So 457 is not applicable, 451 is applicable. 457 ma चाहिँ के छ भन्दाखेरि 457 says that if seized article is produced, you have to release it to the appropriate authority of the person भन्छ act ले नै कानुनले नै. तर 451 मा चाहिँ it says that it is the discretion, रिलिज गर्नु चाह्यो भने गर्दा हुन्छ, नगर्दा पनि हुन्छ भन्छ. र यसमा चाहिँ लालु सिंहको केसमा चाहिँ के भएको छ भन्दाखेरि जुन चाहिँ ट्र्याक्टर युज भएको थियो त्यो ट्र्याक्टर चाहिँ म्याजिस्ट्रेटले नछोड्नु, किन 457 मा भएको भए ही शुड ह्याभ रिलिज्ड इट. तर 451 एप्लाई गर्नु, त्यसले गर्दाखेरि रिलिज नगर्नु, किनभने दिस इज द मेन एभिडेन्स द्याट ट्र्याक्टर वाज युज फर कमिसन अफ द अफेन्स. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि नछोड्नु भन्नु खोजेको हो यो चाहिँ कोर्टले चाहिँ. 457 युज नगर्नु, 451 युज गर्नु. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि जज विल ह्याभ द डिस्क्रिसन, म छोड्दिनँ यो किनभने तेरो ट्र्याक्टर चाहिँ इन्भल्भ छ, आई नट रिलिज इट भन्नु सक्छ. 457 मा चाहिँ सक्दैन. नाउ इन्डियन ह्यान्डिक्राफ्ट इम्पेरियम and others versus Union of India and others, petitioner challenged the constitutional validity of amendment in WLP Act by which chapter 4(5)(a) was inserted. यो चाहिँ आइभरी को केस हो जसमा चाहिँ बाहिरबाट इम्पोर्ट भएको आइभरी थियो. पहिला चाहिँ इम्पोर्ट गरेर ल्याएर यु क्यान ह्याभ अ ट्रेड इन आइभरीज एन्ड अल. बट after this amendment, they have totally stopped trading on ivories and all. So what this Indian Handicraft Emporium had done, they have imported some ivory from South Africa before the amendment. But after the amendment, what happened? तिमीहरूले यो ivory चलाउन सक्दैन भने कानुनले, एक्टले. They challenge it saying that यो चाहिँ unconstitutional हो भन्दाखेरि the Supreme Court says no, it is not unconstitutional, you cannot use it now भने. SC held right to property is not a fundamental right and amendment is not unconstitutional. उनीहरूको प्ली यो इन्डियन ह्यान्डिक्राफ्ट इम्पोरियमको प्ली चाहिँ के थियो भने this ivory was legally imported from South Africa, so this is our property. So this is our fundamental right to use my property. But what the Supreme Court has said that no, right to property is not a fundamental right. Of course, right to property was a fundamental right before the amendment, but after, not this amendment, before the amendment in the Constitution, it was a fundamental right. If I am not mistaken, I think 32, Article 32 or 32, I don't remember the exact article right now, but it was a fundamental right. Later on, Constitution was amended and right to property was removed, and this is only a constitutional right under Article 300A of the Constitution. As of now, it is not a fundamental right. Why it is not a fundamental right? Because if right to property is a fundamental right, then biggest difficulties which the government will face is to acquire the landed properties. Suppose this is my piece of land, government wants this piece of land to construct a project for the public purpose, or a national highway is running from this property. If this property is mine and the property right is a fundamental right, then government cannot evict me from this property, because this is my fundamental right. That's why they removed it and they made it as a constitutional right only under Article 300A. Now here also, using the same logic, Supreme Court said that no, this is not your fundamental. So what the court says, that like police, forest officials also can produce the accused before the court and take the remand under 167. So you can remand him, interrogate him, and send him to the custody also. Babur versus State of Bhagat. This is 6 leopard skins and 1 leopard cat skins were proved to have been seized. Now, burden to prove that the accused was not having conscious possession and was not aware of its existence is on the accused. Now, what happens is, you have proved that leopard skins were seized. Like, if I have a house here, I have an outhouse out there. So 6 leopard skins were seized from my outhouse. I can say that although that outhouse belongs to me, but I do not have the conscious possession of that leopard skins, because somebody else might have kept it in my outhouse, because I was not aware of this. But what the court says, that it is me who have to prove that I was not having the knowledge. So burden has been reversed. If you prove, if the forest officials as in prosecuting agency prove that 6 leopard skins were found in my outhouse, then burden shifts upon me to prove that I was not having the conscious possession of that property. Otherwise, conscious possession थियो कि थिएन त्यो पनि अरु अफेन्समा हो भने prosecuting agency नै प्रुभ गर्नु पर्थ्यो, र यसमा चाहिँ पर्दैन भन्दैछ. So they have eased out, Supreme Court and the other honorable courts have eased out so many things. Thank you so much. This is all for today. I know lectures are very, very boring things. If you have any questions, if you have any queries, I'll be more than happy to answer. If you don't have anything, then we'll break for the day.
So, procedure lapsको कुरा आउँदै थियो, त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ एउटा केसमा अथोराइज्ड मान्छे होइन भने चाहिँ त्यो कोर्ट,
Once the court rejects after going through everything, you cannot refile it, because he has already been prosecuted. Accused लाई एकपल्ट कोर्टमा पुर्याएर उभ्याएर उसको अगेन्स्टमा एलिगेसन लगाइसकेपछि that will be considered as prosecuted. And as per our constitution, a person cannot be prosecuted twice for same offense भन्छ. त्यसले गर्दा एकपल्ट कोर्टले कन्सिडर गरेर तेरो माथि केस बनिँदैन भनिसकेपछि you cannot again अर्को केसमा अलिकति घुमाइ फिराइ गरेर चेन्ज गरेर हाल्न सक्नुहुन्छ, तर त्यही फ्याक्ट एन्ड सर्कमस्टेन्समा फेरि जान सक्नुहुन्छ. Anything else? Anything from the back? You two young officers from Forest Department, if you have anything, any queries? Okay.